I am your ghost host, Mike, and this is the Not Ghost Host Post. Nope, podcast. How you doing tonight? All right, so first question is...
Do you believe in the Boogeyman?
Well, I do. I hope everyone out there in Boogeyman land does. First of all, the Boogeyman. What is the Boogeyman? Well, the Boogeyman could be anything. The Boogeyman could be just about anything in your little head that you think it is. However, with that, most people go into haunted houses and they expect to get scared by the Boogeyman. Well, you guys pay a good amount of money and you want to get scared. However, I own a haunted yard. In other words, I set up my yard. I don't charge people to come through. We do ask for donations, and all donations go to usually a child in need, someone or one of the children that may be in the neighborhood that is terminally ill. We try to collect any donations that people give for those kids that, it's so close to Christmas that maybe it'll help the parents give them a Christmas. For the last few years, we've been given $2,000 a year or more. Maybe $3,000, $2,000, $2,500, somewhere in there. And that could give a pretty nice Christmas to some child. Or it can pay for medicine for, today's world, maybe 2 doses. Who knows? But it goes for something. And so I don't charge for my scares. Sorry, mine. Yeah. But I think, going to the haunted houses are fun for people. They like to get their scare on, and they like to, see others, screaming and hollering and having a good time. And, with my own experiences, these people come out and they basically donate their children to us. And I have a bunch of live actors that just feed on that. They have a wonderful time doing the scares, and the people that come out to see us, we hope that they really enjoy it. Unfortunately, I've made the decision to pull the plug on it. It's been this coming up year will be our 15th year in operation. We've been doing this for 16 years. However, during the COVID 2020, we decided not to open up, just in fear of, clowns out there clowning too much and possibly causing problems. At that point in our lives, people had way too much time on their hands and didn't know what to do with it. And, they made life miserable for a lot of people. So we made the decision. It might have been wrong. We don't know. I feel that it was right. We made the decision not to open up and not to give these people a chance to screw things up for other people that wanted to enjoy things. However, with that being said, with us not being open, people were not happy with us for that reason. But, it's a lesser of two evils if I believe what I believed when we decided to, not open up. It did give us a break, at that year, that would have been our 10th year. And every year, we work harder and harder to make a good presents for everybody. Spooky, yet tame enough for young children to come out and enjoy. But, I can go on for hours with the stories of the scares that we've had and what people experienced and how they experienced it. And we've had people break their teeth. We've had people poo their pants. We had one girl that we chased down the street, and she decided to run up on the minivan. She ran up the front of the minivan and was on the roof. And my partners and I were, doing the zombie grab type of thing, grabbing for her. And, she's screaming and hollering, and she's on top of the van. And after about 5 or 6 minutes of that, we got a little tap on our shoulder, and the tap was from the guy that owned the car, and that was not his daughter, but it was his car. He, he went along with it and for as long as he could, and then, she could have done a lot of damage on the top of that car, and he didn't even care. He was just having a good old time, but he felt that, we were long enough, and that wasn't his daughter, so he wanted her off his car. Can't blame the man. But, again, he must have been having a blast because he allowed us to do it for as long as we did. And he didn't even come over. He didn't try to get her off the roof. He just let us go at it until, I think she started jumping on it, which was going to cause some damage. She wasn't a little girl. She was probably, I'm going to say, between 12 and 14 years old. So she wasn't exactly small, and she's on top of this minivan. And, those minivan roofs aren't exactly strong. They cave in quite easy. And she's up there jumping and kicking and whatever else. So, yeah, God bless him. We had a guy that he was, I'm going to say he was mentally challenged. Not terrible. Probably just on the lower spectrum of any problems. But he still had some issues. And good-natured young man. He was excited to be here, and when he got here, he had a big camera. He had, I think it was a Nikon, big lens, nice lens, and all the gadgets and everything else. And you can tell that I believe he had autism. That's not a prognosis, but that's what I believe he had. So, when someone with autism puts their mind to something, that's what it is. And they're really good at it. So he was taking pictures, and of course, like every haunted house out there, you've got the chainsaw guy. And he come out with the chainsaw. That guy started running. Now, you have to picture this. He's got a winter coat. It wasn't too cold out, but it was chilly, He's got this winter coat that's kind of baggy on him. I believe he was wearing, regular zipper up pants, not jeans, but almost like dress pants, but maybe work, work clothes, like a mechanic type of pants. Anyway, he should have been wearing a belt, because those things went right down around his ankles, and when they went down around his ankles, that just tripped him all kinds of ways up. He hit the ground. That camera busted into I don't know how many pieces. He got up and just left. He just had a best old time. He didn't even care about the camera. He picked up the pieces and just continued to, I don't know if the camera was damaged that bad or, what, but, I'm sure the people that he was with would have, helped him out taking care of it and getting it fixed or, replacing the parts. I mean, we felt bad, but, he, as soon as we see that somebody's just laughing about what just happened to him, hey, we laugh along with them. We were probably laughing harder on the inside than he was on the outside. But just the motion that he went through, arms flailing up in the air, pants were falling down around his ankles. him doing a dance trying to make himself stand up, and that just didn't work. And bam, he hit the ground, and yeah, shattered up his world for a little bit there. And he got up and took it with a grain of salt. Went and looked at the rest of the display and watched all the other characters. Whether he took pictures after that or not, I don't know. I can't tell you. But he did have a good time even after all that. Then there's plenty of times that, we'd be doing a scare and all of a sudden we hear out of the crowd, I peed. We had a few girls and guys shart themselves. We've had that quite a few times. And every time an actor, got that type of scare, it was marked up, as a ghoul best. So we took pride in that. My partners and I, Russ and Lou, we were the founding fathers, and we had our scares like that early. We were just, we were seasoned veterans, and so we started, right off the bat, and we've had people lose every type of item that you can imagine. There was one time I actually got up the next morning to go out and check the yard for, props that broken and, what have you. And in one of the walkways, I found a pair of female thong underwear. No, I didn't do anything with them, and I didn't even pick them up by hand. If they're there, there's a problem. So yeah, we found those. A lot of earbuds. Unbelievable amount of earbuds. I've got a collection over here. I keep them in case somebody comes back and say, hey, did you find this here? We've had people lose children. It's kind of tough to do. I mean, we're not a huge yard, but when there's a big crowd, kids can go missing. So all the actors band together, and eventually we find them, and usually they're walking with another crowd, just, hey, how you doing? I don't know who you are. Oh, boy. All of a sudden they realize they're with the wrong family, and, we figure it out. And usually the other family says, okay, I counted 6, and I've only got 2. Yeah, there's a problem. So, yeah, we have a good time doing that, and that's all about seeing the boogeyman type of thing. The other is the paranormal, and yeah, I believe in the paranormal. I believe in the boogeyman and the paranormal. Now, to me, the boogeyman and the paranormal is just your everyday, spirit that really is just hanging out. Might scare other people because it's you don't expect it. It's not that you may be afraid of the supernatural or the paranormal, but you may fear it because it's not something you're expecting to experience. Seeing something move across the room and you're not, you're the only one home, that could be a problem. Yes, do our minds play tricks on us? Absolutely. As you see, I wear glasses, and a lot of times when I'm, wearing glasses, just the right reflection off the side of my glasses or, what have you, it might throw what looks like a shadow or, someone standing there, or that's happened quite a bit. And in fact, I have to be vigilant when I'm at an investigation to pay attention to where my glasses are at all times. I know they're on my face. Yes, I get that. But I have to really focus on where the lenses show. you know, most of the time, because we're in the dark, it isn't too much of a problem. But let's say I'm walking past a camera that has a light on it, and I can see that light. They say, oh, we can't see the infrared, but I don't know, maybe I'm special. I can see the red. Oh, and sometimes, that might reflect onto the glasses, and I might see something off to the side. Uh, I do say that I like to believe that I am pretty vigilant when it comes to that. I understand that can happen. So, most of the time I'll turn my head and then I'll do it again just to see if it was my glasses, and a lot of times it's just the glasses. Although there have been times that it wasn't the glasses. There have been times that it was what I feel is a yep, that's what I feel. I know it's a spirit, but I'm the shadow person. Uh, where it's a darker figure than your typical white ghost, sheet ghost type of spirit. Not one of these guys. Boo hoo, what have you. But it appears darker. It's like your own shadow, but at a distance. And, if you're casting a shadow and you move, chances are you're not going to see your own shadow unless you're Punxsutawney Pill. And, he only comes out once a year to do that. But anyway, yeah, if you might see a shadow person. Usually when you do see shadow, it's not usually either it's usually not usually up close, it's at a far distance, or it's off in your peripheral somewhere. I don't know what that's, if that means anything, or if that's their intention. Do they have the intention to come off on your peripheral so you're not seeing them directly on, or do they expose themselves so far away that they can't be recognized other than a shadow? I mean, I don't know. If they're, let's say, standoffish because they're afraid you're going to try to evict them, that I don't know. And maybe that's why they show themselves as shadows. I'm sure, and I haven't really heard any real theories as to why they, show themselves as shadows opposed to, let's say, a white mist like I saw at my apartment in Chicago. I saw, what appeared, like I said, almost 4 foot off the ground to about 6 foot off the ground, and just a white mist that went across the doorway. Looked like fog that got blown by a fan. And, but that was the whitish translucent look. And then there's the darker shadow guys now, or people. I shouldn't say guys, but people. And, what are they? What are they different than your standard issue spook, spirit, whatever? I don't know. That's a question for the professionals, and I don't think there are any. Because the professional scientists refuse to look at it because it's supernatural or paranormal. It has that stigma, which I believe is wrong. I'm sure you've heard me say that in the last episode. Yeah, I don't know why scientists decide that this isn't real. I hear people. I know a family member that swears up and down that we didn't land on the moon. Well, first of all, you weren't there. Second of all, you weren't old enough to experience it, where I was just being born. So I know he wasn't around. He wasn't even thought of probably at the time. Um, so, yeah, I was born in 1967. So, yeah, right when it happened, but he swears that we didn't go to the moon. Well, you know what? I can combat everything he has. In fact, he made a stupid comment today that there are no clear pictures of the orbit around the moon, this last orbit. I went on Google and instantly brought up the clearest pictures that you can possibly get, clearer than what would be taken on Earth. Don't give me that bullshit. If you don't believe it, that's fine. But don't try to make everyone else around you think that we didn't go to the moon. Who cares? Does it affect your life? That's what I want to know. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have any bearing on your life whatsoever. What does have bearing on your life is the people around you. And sometimes those people are no longer walking the earth as you know them. So, here's a clue. Deal with those. Deal with that. Maybe try to communicate with somebody like that. To me, that's more important. I would love, to this day, I would love to have a conversation with my mom, my dad, my brother, my grandmother. I don't want to say that because I'm not alone in this world. I have my own family that I built in love. But as far as my family, I'm it. There's no more and no one else. And I had a brother, I had a father, and I had a mother. My brother's younger than me, and he chose to deny that he had any type of drug problem. And I'm not ashamed to say it. He had a drug problem, and he denied it until he didn't wake up from his drug problem. Unfortunately, I'm the one that had to find him. I'm the one that had to deal with it all, essentially by myself, because I was by myself when I found him. My wife was at work. My, kids were in school and at home and, what have you. And I didn't want them dealing with that. And so, all I can do was, call my wife and tell her, hey, I just found my brother passed, and it's not a good scene. It's a crime scene right now. And so, there's nothing you can do. I'm in behind the tape, and you can't come behind the tape. So, just, stay home until I can call you, till, the crime scene is released. So I had to deal with the immediate cause alone. I'm not, looking for oh boy, or, something like that. I'm not looking for that. I am just making a point that there's a lot more important things in this world than, worried about us landing on the moon. And the thing is, I feel that his whole life is consumed by that, because every time he's been over for the last few family events, that's all he's ever talked about. Unfortunately, I don't think that That's how you should be living life. Uh, Now he can say the same thing about me ghost hunting. Well, you know what? At least I have a purpose to worry about it. You know, I'm trying to find a way to communicate with my family. I miss them. They're my family. They were the backbone of everything that I know. Um, Everything that I hold true is, was my family. And yes, again, I have built my own family, which I am, you know, I love to death. I don't have any, I have no qualms about what I've done. I just wish that, like my wife's father passed away a couple of years ago. We miss him to death. Wish he was here to experience it. He was my fishing partner. We had a rocky start, but after the rocky start, uh, we both grew very close. I would spend hours with him. I mean hours, not just one or two here and there. We would spend 8 hours in a boat floating around fishing and didn't even blink, didn't even think about it. We had conversation after conversation, and I learned more about my father-in-law in, just a few fishing trips than most people learned about him in their lives. And he was a special person. He was, he was a Chicago policeman, but he handled things entirely different than most policemen I've ever known. You can rely on him. You knew he was going to be there. And man, I'll tell you what, if anybody was going to do some shooting, I want to stand next to this man. He was, we had a critter problem up at his wife's cottage. And there was a chipmunk that was raising Cain at the house, chewing through everything, wires, everything they can chew through, he was chewing through. And my father-in-law had enough of it, but his fatal mistake was coming out while my father-in-law, it was ironic, we were sitting in the back of the yard just having a conversation. We don't even know why we were sitting out there. I guess it was just a good place to sit at the time. It was an unusual place for us to sit. Usually we sat in which would be the backyard of the house by the channel where the boat is. And we were just, shooting the shit. And all of a sudden this little critter come out, went right in front of us. Biggest mistake of his life. My father-in-law got up, walked into the garage, didn't run, just walked right into the garage, grabbed a pump BB gun, and proceeded to hit this thing about 10 times at 30 feet. Okay, 30 feet. And it looked like he was at a shooting range. He'd shoot it, it would jump up in the air, flip around, go the other way. He'd hit it over there. He'd jump up, flip around, run this way, and he did that at least 10 times. And I'm telling you, he did that. I was laughing. I'm rolling. And this thing had no place. He just kept running back and forth. And every time he'd get to his herd, bing, ping, bing, bing, And this is hitting a chipmunk, mouse-sized, just slightly bigger than a mouse, slightly smaller than a rat. At 30 feet with a BB gun. Not the most accurate one either. Like a little daisy, couple pump type of, not even air pump, just a regular, pump it up a couple times, get that spring tight, and that was it. And, finally the thing just gave up, and that was it. He couldn't take it anymore. So, my father-in-law was a very special person. Miss him dearly. We just did a little memorial today and spread his ashes around the cottage. It was one place that he loved to go, and, I loved to be there with him. He would go on vacation with us all the time. We would go up there for a week and a half, and he'd come in 3 to 4 days into our vacation and stay with us the whole time. So we had a good time, and it was always a blast with my father-in-law. But that's another person that I would love to be able to have a conversation with right now. And I looked at my own father, and I would ask my father certain questions. I would talk to him. We weren't always on the best of terms, fathers and sons, especially when I'm a teenager and I know everything. I didn't agree with my dad's strictness. My dad was really strict. He was beyond strict. So growing up was it was fun, but it wasn't the greatest. I would have to, and I'm, not crying on anybody's shoulder. I would have to literally 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, cutting firewood with an axe, a maul axe, wedges, and a sledgehammer. And I'm 7 years old swinging these things in my backyard as punishment for something I've done. And to be honest with you, what could I have done at 7, 8, 9, 10 years old that was ever that bad? I mean, unless I stole a car, no. Maybe I lied about something. Maybe I, took a piece of candy when I wasn't supposed to. Maybe I was home 5 minutes late. Or maybe I didn't come home right from school like I was supposed to, stopped off at a friend's house, or, maybe drank some pop when I wasn't supposed to. That's the type of stuff I'd get into, and that was the punishment I would have to do, chop firewood. And, there's a initiation for woodcutters, and some woodcutters would know about it. You take the sledgehammer or the back of the axe, you put it in your hand, you turn your hand backwards, and it's usually a 20-pound sledgehammer, and you have to lower it down till you kiss the head and bring it back around. Now that's backhanded, holding it like this here and then tilting it down, and it's a 20-pound sledgehammer. And I was able to do that at 12 years old. Yeah. So, and that would be left or right-handed. It didn't matter to me. I can use both hands, and I would only use the last two fingers. I would only hold it with the last two fingers and have these out like this. The thumb and those two fingers, and these two fingers would be up. At 12 years old, okay, I was able to wield an axe with precision. I shouldn't be proud of that. I really shouldn't be. Not at 12 years old. No. So, yeah, my punishments were quite terrible. But on the good note, when we did do family things, it was fun. When we did, my dad would find some of the best things to do. He wasn't afraid to do things with us that would be considered unethical today. Example, he tied our sleds to the back of his Beetle, his Volkswagen Bug, and pulled us down the street to the park, and then drove through the park with us on this back of the sleds. Now, if anybody knows what a Beetle is, or how a Beetle was designed back in the 70s, the exhaust shooting right out the back. And man, that was a terrible smell. But you know what? We were laughing. We were having a good time. We didn't get hurt. And we weren't afraid of getting hurt. Okay. So good time. Something that I remember. I'll never forget that for as long as I live, I hope. And, so there were, the good times, but it just seems the bad seems to outweigh the good. And, so I was, what I'm getting at is I would love to have a conversation with any one of, either my father or my father-in-law. I'd like to ask questions. I would ask my father-in-law one thing, and then my father, others. So, both of, my father-in-law being a Chicago policeman and me being a sheriff, if I had a question about law or something, or, a procedure, it would be him I'd go to. I wouldn't go to my own bosses because most of them clowns didn't have a clue. And my father-in-law, would be able to answer me, in the way he would do things. And that's the way I wanted to do things, like him. He had a way of handling people the proper way. It wasn't always the way you would think it should be handled, but you know what? It was handled. It was done, and at some point, everyone walked away. But it was a lasting memory for both. And what I mean by that is, so the bad guy or bad girl would remember what he did, and a lot of them, if they continued on their trip down bad man lane, a lot of them thought, okay, well, we're not going to do it where this man is at. We'll do it someplace else where there's different coppers. So they moved along and they, left that area alone, which, for crime to happen anywhere is bad, but it wasn't happening to the same people over and over again. Or maybe he got them to switch their ways around. So yeah, that was one thing. If I wanted to know how my father-in-law did things, I would ask him. If I wanted to know something, construction-wise or business-wise, I would talk to my father. That was his specialty, especially in construction. It was pretty much his whole entire life. Although he was a telephone man, he was still in construction in the telephone company. He had a history and a career in construction, and he also was a master carpenter. And I had a lot of good experience with that. And my mom, she dabbled in, the medical field. She was on a medical van that did testing of, different companies. They'd go in and pull the van in, the people go out and get little checkups, x-rays and whatever they were able to perform on a medical van. So my mom was an x-ray technician, and I don't know, she'd take blood. I don't know, phlebotomist, something like that. So she had those certificates under her belt, and, she was pretty wise in just everyday knowledge, and that's who I would talk to for everyday life, conversations. And my brother, I'd just make fun of. So, those are the people in my life that I want to concentrate on and, find out where they're at, how they're doing. Is there, is there any pain and suffering where they're at? We always say, oh, they're not in pain and suffering anymore. But do we know that? I don't know. And the question is, if you're here and you are haunting someplace and you are being obnoxious, is it because you're in pain? Or is there sorrow where you're at? Is there anger where you're at? Are you angry because, maybe if someone took your life, or you missed out on something, maybe you were supposed to get married that day, or, maybe you were going to a special party for something that you've done, or, whatever it is, or maybe you were going to a family member's wedding, your daughter's, or, your son's, wedding, or, what have you. And and it got taken away from you. Is there anger? We don't know. Why do spirits act out? Or is it acting out, or is it just trying to get attention? That's one of the other big questions. We don't know, why spirits do things. Why do they throw plates? Why do they knock things off of shelves? Why do they make you misplace things? Why do you put your keys down in one place and they'll put them in another, just so maybe they want you to think you're nuts? I don't know. But these are the things that I go through in my head, and I wonder. My brother again passed away from overdose. And I don't think it was intentional. I think it was accidental. Is he now angry with himself for doing that? He was 47 years old when he passed. I think something like that. Because I'm 58, and he died in 2018. So 8 years ago. And wow, 8 years. Wow. That just dawned on me. 8 years ago. 8 years ago coming up. Wow. Yeah. This is... Wow. 8 years. Wow. Anyway, he is he angry? Is he content? Is he okay with what he did? Does he know what he did? Does he know he's passed? I don't believe that I have been visited by him. I haven't heard him. However, with that being said, my daughter says that she sees him. My daughter is sensitive, and she can see spirits. She can talk to spirits. She can hear spirits, and they can communicate through her. I have plenty of stories that make me believe it. I have no reason to doubt my daughter. Not like she's going to lie to me about something like that. That makes no sense. But when her grandfather passed, there was plenty of experiences at that point where she has tilted the weights in her favor, for sure. One was when my father-in-law had first passed. They went to the house before I did. My kids, they were all able to drive. And so they went to the house before me. I don't know what I was doing or, why I took a separate vehicle, but it was only a few minutes between us. And when my daughter walked into the house, she went past the room to go see my wife. And when she walked into to talk to my wife, she asked my wife, she said, "Hey, Mom, who's sitting with Grandpa?" And my wife said, "No one's sitting with him. He's in the room by himself." And he said, No, there's a heavyset woman with curly hair sitting with Grandpa. And my wife said, "No." And now my daughter was in high school, maybe just 16 years old. And first of all, there was nobody there. Second of all, the person that she described in full, face, hair, what she was wearing, and how big she was a full description of my father-in-law's sister. Now, you can say, oh, well, she saw pictures. No, she didn't. Auntie Joni has no pictures anywhere. In fact, we found one just after of going through my mother-in-law's stuff when she was time to move, is the first time that they found a picture. Oh, excuse me, again with this yawning, of my wife's Aunt Joan. And I've never seen a picture of her. Never. And I've been married to my wife for 35 years. And with my wife 3 years prior to our marriage. So I've never seen a picture of her. And not only that, I lived in the apartment that she died in and had no clue what she looked like because all I saw was a white mist. Okay. But my daughter described her to a T, never seeing a picture of her. So it wasn't like, she had pictures hanging around and said, oh, who's that? She never knew who that girl was or that woman was. And it turned out to be, from the description, turned out to be my father-in-law's sister. And my father-in-law's sister passed when my wife was 12 years old. So that says something. Then my mother-in-law continuously, I think she was in denial, I think she still is, was continuously blaming my father-in-law for taking her school ring and selling it. Now my father-in-law would never, he didn't need the money. He was far from needing money, trust me. But there would be no reason in the world that he would take my mother-in-law's school ring and sell it. None. Perhaps misplace it, maybe. But to just outright sell it, no. So my mother-in-law was going on and on and on about this, just ranting and raving. That Howard, her husband, sold this ring. Well, my father-in-law was talking with my daughter. Now, this is for just a good guess, about a week, probably a week or two after my father-in-law passed. Okay, 2 weeks, I'm going to say, where she was going through stuff and just couldn't find this ring and everything else. My wife says, well, I'm going to bring Kaylin over and see if she can find out from Dad where this ring is. So my daughter talked to my father-in-law, and at first my father-in-law was being being obstinate. He just did not want to tell her where it was at because of how she was acting. And my daughter being being polite, my father-in-law was telling her to tell her something. And my daughter just was not going to do it. She just, that's not how I am, Grandpa, blah, blah, blah. So please just tell me where this is at. And finally, my father-in-law decided to tell her exactly where to look. Now, my daughter would have no idea where any of this stuff is at. She said it's in the high boy, in this box under this clothes. Sure as shit, my mother-in-law brought that box out exactly where my daughter pinpointed it, and the ring was in there. How would my daughter know that? My father-in-law would have never shown her that. For what reason would she have to have shown her that? Out of all the things in the world, okay, could have been anything, and it was this ring that was buried in a box in the tie boy top drawer, whatever. And so my daughter would have had no reason to even, ask to see it, whatever. I don't know. So that's just two experiences. I have a friend of mine that is a paranormal investigator, and he is a former Marine, and he lost a Marine in his company during the war. I believe. No, maybe it was suicide. One way or the other, he lost a former Marine with him. And he was following my buddy. And my daughter saw him and said, so-and-so is following you. He wants you to know that everything is okay. He's fine. And he's, kind of watching over you. Now, even though my daughter was friends with him, because he's between our ages. He's in his 30s. My daughter's in her 20s. So, and I'm in my 50s. But he's a Chicago fireman, former Marine, what have you. And never once spoke to my daughter about this guy. Never brought him up. It wasn't in conversation. He never talked about him. It was somebody that he knew from the unit. He wasn't a very close friend of his. He was a friend in the Marine Corps. And, they kept in touch after Marine Corps, from what I'm thinking it was a suicide. And, wasn't like he was, I don't even think they lived in the same state. I think they just communicated via phone. And, interesting. Anyway, just communicated via phone or, what have you. So, my daughter would have never met him, didn't know what he looked like, and she described him to Ryan, so he knew who he was, name and everything. I don't know if it was the last name. I think it was just the first name. But Ryan instantly knew who he was talking about. My daughter being sensitive kind of makes me jealous, because I would love to be able to do what she does. And I'm told that everybody has their, senses, and everyone is supposed to be able to use it, but I don't know. I don't believe it. But anyway, so to answer your question of...
Do you believe in the Boogeyman?
Yes, I do. And the Boogeyman is your family members, or your local haunt, whatever. So, with that being said, I am going to sayonara, leave out, get gone, be done, scrammoodle, leave everything alone, goodbye, au revoir, peace out, peace, love, and hair gel, peace, love, and hair cream. I don't know. Something like that. Anyway, from the Not Ghost Host podcast, I'm Mike. See you next time. And Have a nice Friday evening, Sunday evening, Monday evening, whatever night it is. Enjoy your evening. All right, we'll talk soon. Bye bye.